are recording.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
We're going to go ahead and call to order the Racial Justice and Equity Commission meeting, November 1st, 2023. And so, everyone has an agenda in front of them? Excellent. All right. So on our agenda first is a committee report out, and we will start with the racial equity. Chair Johnson, you have the floor.
Thank you. It seems like my committee always goes first. We have to remix that. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We actually had a fairly brief meeting last month where we talked about the name change process. So for you all that obviously have been here over the last year and change, our committee brought back as a recommendation a formal change to the name of our commission, which is currently the Racial Justice and Equality Commission, to change equality to equity, because we know that equality and equity are not the same thing, that actually equality is the end product when there is equity. And we thought that equity is a much more fitting name. We brought that back to the group. I think we have already voted as a commission of the whole to move forward with that. So then Director Brown has now taken it to the legal department, has put together some ordinance, which there's some language we're going to touch on in new business that relates to that. Then that requires sort of another vote from us to put that into motion. So we discussed that. We also had some conversation about the results of the DEIB training that LFUCG staff took part in about a year ago. I believe that there was a presentation due to be released in October by the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer. We asked that our committee asked that the consultant who worked in combination in tandem with the CAO's office would potentially come to our committee meeting in December to report out on some of those findings from that training. There was a review of the flock training, the flock presentation that took place. A couple of our committee members attended that, really highly recommended that. There was some robust discussion around that. And then we talked a little about just housekeeping in terms of the annual commission report, as well as how we need to start thinking about potential nominations and successions to the leadership structure within our committee, since we know that in February we're going to have some terms that could be expiring, will be expiring, could be renewed, and just making sure that we are ahead of any successions that need to take place.
Thank you. Next, we will have the LAJA, Law Enforcement, Justice, and Accountability Committee report.
I guess since Commissioner Wells isn't here, Commissioner Adair and I will tag team this. For our meeting, we talked about how members of the subcommittee attended the flock safety presentation. I think Commissioner Adair was the most recent person to attend the presentation. And I think from the conversation, it seemed like we all learned a lot from it. Some minds were changed about what the flock safety program was and what it does and how it works. So we had thought about putting forward the recommendation that possibly the police can actually do a semi-annual community meeting where they are invited to a space like the Lyric Theater or somewhere, and they can do a presentation about flock safety cameras, how it works, and then every subsequent meeting after that, it would be updates, what's happening now, whether the numbers of people that are have opted in to be a part of the flock safety program as far as businesses and personal residences. And I believe that we also spoke about, there was a city that actually also has these community meetings where they bring other people outside of just the police department to talk about what's happening in government in general also. So there could be a presentation as well as a Q&A. And I think that as we were talking about it would wind up being, there would be quarterly presentation. So there would be 2 about flock safety, 2 about in general, what the city is doing and programs, and then it gives an opportunity for the community to be able to build a relationship with the government as well as fire department, police department, and such like that. So,
I recommend, and Ms. Brown said that everyone goes and sees this setup, and they gave us an example of how it's used to prevent and also solve crime. And if you guys probably heard my tone, I was very much against being a surveillance community and city. But when we walked through the process and how they showed how it was done, I get it. I still don't like being surveyed. But however, if I'm a victim of something, of course I'd want to find out, or at least prevent or find out who did the crime. You know? So it's pretty cool technology. I do see it, the matrix coming together on it though. Because you can opt in on your phone to be a part of it. Your house can be a part of it, your ringer. The lights that usually get, that are at the stoplights are in on it. Then you have the flock system, which is all these systems are now working together. And so we're not going to stop it, right? What has to happen is that we continue to regulate and continue to question it and continue to monitor it as civilians. Because it can get out of hand, and there has to be some type of policy and procedure. I'm not sure if we went down that rabbit hole of being able to check and recheck to make sure. And they seem to have lots of systems in place to make sure nobody abuses it. However, people change, positions change, leadership changes, so that at some point there still has to be a check and connect on making sure the system is used for what it's been implemented for. And you guys all know, bosses move out, since new philosophy comes in, there needs to be a third party, which is what you're kind of leaning to, coming in and reassessing it.
yeah, and I think that's why the subcommittee agreed that it would be good to have these regular updates by the police department to let the community know what's happening, what's changing, how the numbers changed. I believe when Commissioner Wells, Whitaker, and myself went to the same presentation, it was the day after, I think, they did the press conference and showed everything, and they told us it was a total opt-in process, and they had told us from the day that they opened the program, the next day they did the presentation, within 24 hours, the number of businesses and residences that opted into being part of the flock safety camera went from 9 to like 175 in the span of 24 hours. And it's all opt-in. You don't have to opt out. You're not going to be a part of it if you don't opt into it. So, and I think that the conversation that we had is similar to what Commissioner Adair said, where we were all talking about, yes, it can go a little bit too far, but that's why we said that these regular check-ins to make sure that the people that are working on it, that are in charge of it, that are looking at all the data, are using it the right way and such. So,
and also at some point in time, they have to show us the return on investment. Did crime decrease? Did those who committed the crime, whole another conversation, was everybody held to the same level of accountability? Not just the person without financial resources, but everyone was held to the same. And that's usually what happens later in the justice system. Those without money actually get penalized even more. And so at some point in time, we got to do an assessment again to say, did this stop prevention? And the people that you're catching, are they being treated fair?
This is an appropriate time for questions on that.
I was about to ask one, so I say go for it.
Okay, so I think it could be a great thing up on the tail of exactly what you're saying. If your subcommittee or the larger group could come up with some certain requests or checks or standards, and not just to have a community meet out, but a standing, please come and report to us on these following items every June or whatever it would be. So it's not just what somebody wants to put forward, but it's also, we're thinking, these are the accountabilities that we would like to see, and we want to make sure that you know that you will come back to us to present on these exact things on a recurring basis. It'd be nice to see what you all would think are the, you know, these are the thresholds that we would like to see. These are the, you know, these are the points that we'd love to have reported on a regular basis to us, not just the larger community to kind of, I imagine if it's a community presentation, it's gonna be kind of an introductory over and over and over again, where we could ask some very specific recurring questions.
And they did say that throughout the meetings, it wouldn't just be the same thing of the introductory. Obviously, they would do an introductory at the beginning in case there are new people in attendance, but they will do regular updates as well as far as like how many people have participated, giving us those stats of return on investment and such like that. So those were things that we had talked about when Commissioner Whitaker, myself, and Commissioner Wells were there, and we were asking questions to the police chiefs there.
Excellent.
So,
I was surprised about the app.
yeah.
Your phone, you can actually turn it on and be a part of the system, and they can see through your phone in real time.
So
But again, that's
sign
an
up for
opt-in
that.
thing.
It's
That-
opt-in.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's an
you
opt-in.
can download the app, and I can be recording you. They can be watching you right over there.
Yeah,
So if there's a crime being committed, they can literally watch through your phone
yeah.
Wow,
if you chose to do that.
Yes.
interesting. So a question that I have, Ms. Brown had helped coordinate an opportunity for the members of this commission to go. I unfortunately was not able to take advantage of it. I was wondering, was anyone able to make it outside of the leisure?
No, but we're gonna set up another meeting, and I'm gonna try to do it like an after 5, because I think that may be helpful
Thank you.
to
Right.
folks on this.
Thank you so much.
I think it's worth it, and it's not just they're opening it up to everybody to come in and see. I'm going to take my mentees in there. I'm going to take my young guys, and we're all going to go in there. I want them to see this, so they're aware. Yes, you are being watched.
Yes.
I mean, more than y'all realize.
Yeah.
I hate to take us away from this conversation. They rewinded the video and saw where somebody put their hand on a car.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was able to get
Fingerprints
fingerprints from the car.
from the car.
Even if, you know,
Yes.
there's no one to report the crime,
Yeah.
they're able to
At least.
kind of solve the crime based on what they see evidence being gathered. And they're not just using, this is not flock, they're using traffic cameras to solve crime. So,
Yeah.
And then they showed the young ladies that talked to the guy, so they knew who he was. And so, you know, you saw, so you didn't just look at the crime and go there forward. They went back and said, okay, who knows this person? What did he have on? What was going on before? And to me, I was like, wow, you know, things that you don't really think about. And I believe it helped them solve the crime. Then they watched them go throughout the city. They like you
Follow
know,
them.
Go see it. Just go see for yourself. I'm not a cheerleader for them or nothing, but
I guess
I'm not
my
committing no
only,
crime.
my only concern, I had a conversation with our police chief regarding the Hispanic community. And the beautiful thing about the police presence in the Hispanic community is now crimes are being reported.
They are.
But that shows that the numbers went up. So in response to your return on investment, we have to be very careful, because the initial numbers are going to show crime up here. But it's not that it didn't exist, it's now that we have ways to report it correctly.
Right.
He was very, very pleased with how and we will continue to entrench and involve the Hispanic community. But it was nice, they're not afraid anymore. They come and report the crime, and that I think is the first step. But initially, and that's he was saying, one, the numbers are up. But the good thing is that things that never were reported before are now being reported, and so it has a good and a bad. So we have to be careful with that return on investment. It may not be immediate. Remember, in business, we said if we get a return on investment within 3 years, we got it. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I see
So
that
we
as
need
a
to look
return on
at that.
investment, though.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's a return on investment when you say it.
Correct. In
Exactly.
itself will be a very good positive.
Yeah.
It just, the crimes may look like it's going up. No, they're there. It's just that now we have a way to solve them, now we have a way to report them. That was all.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
So,
Back to your original question, though, I guess at some point there needs to be, what are the metrics?
Right.
What are those metrics that?
And
would be-
I think that would be a really fascinating question for us to develop. You know, not for them to develop what story they want to tell, but what accountabilities would we like to see in place and reported on.
Is there a paper trail on, if, let's say you opt into the system, is there a paper trail on how the contact between the law enforcement and the person is made, or any law enforcement officer can walk up to your house and be like, I need this footage?
I believe that what they said was once you opt in, then an email conversation happens. So everything is done via email. So there is an electronic email trail.
Okay.
They say that if you want to opt in, are you a resident or a business? Are you this or that? And that determines which direction you go, what equipment you might need, what access you need to give people. And the one thing that they were very insistent upon is that at any point in time when someone has opted in and they want to opt out, like that opt out is immediate. So it's not like it takes 3 or 4 weeks to process a request or anything like that. It becomes an immediate thing, and then if you decide to opt out, then the police have no longer have access to.
So there's
your-
always
an email trail,
Okay.
not a physical paper trail, but there's an email.
That's what I meant. Like
Yeah.
there's some,
oh yeah.
some writing about what, and also, are the people who opt in identity protected?
I don't know. I
Well,
would assume so, but I'm not sure.
Great question.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I think that's a follow-up question.
That's a great
for law
question.
enforcement.
Yeah, we can
That's a
definitely
great
I don't
ask
think,
that.
I mean, so when you opt in, you're basically giving them permission to contact you, saying that you want to be a part of this network if there is something that happens. But they're not going in and retrieving the video themselves.
Yeah.
You would then, after they contact you, you would then give them access to review a specific time period of footage. They would still contact you if they were canvassing your neighborhood after a crime
Yeah.
to get the same footage. Basically, you're just saying now, I want to be a part of this network to help, I don't know, solve crime if it was to occur.
And at that point, they asked you anyway.
They ask you.
They'll ask you anyway. Hey, you were here at 5 o'clock and there's a crime. Can we see your camera? You say yes or no. And at the same time, your question, the reason why it stumped me, because when I did look at the video and the neighborhoods of the businesses and people that did opt in, you could see the houses. You could see who opted in with their Ring doorbells.
Yeah.
So you did see like this third house, this fifth house. You did see that on that map.
But that's not, everybody doesn't have access to that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to a presentation,
They only show you could see on the address, but you couldn't see or you could see the house, but you couldn't see the
See the
address.
Address or the street
But then they
name.
have their officers who are in the area, their body cams are also connected to the system.
yes,
Yeah.
even
So-
though everybody's connected.
Yeah.
Everybody's connected.
Yeah.
So it's basically like these different systems are talking to each other.
Yeah, it was an interesting way to see how they were piecing together a puzzle to try to figure out how to solve
It's
the
really-
crime.
It's neat.
Yeah.
And in my understanding, just for clarity, even after you opt in, before they will access, let's say you opted in today, a week from now, if there was a crime, they would need to get your permission
Yes.
Yes.
before accessing.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, you know,
And to another committee member's point, you can decline, they can contact the company and subpoena the footage regardless. So there's still ways to get.
Then there's that.
Then there's that part. So the same way in any other investigation, if they need your phone records or your cell phone location or whatever, they can still get that information. So you can say no.
And that's what I've left with. I'm like, yeah, I can say no, but this is going to happen anyway.
They have a win.
And it's better that we get some oversight on the process from now, since they're starting to put this entire network together. It's good for us now to start that oversight. ask those questions about what they need to, what we would like them to report into us on an annual basis and such, so we can keep the information flowing, so it's not just something that seems like it's a secret that's over at the police department.
And these presentations, although we're gonna have one set up for our group, they're open to the public.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone in the public. I would think that that would be something, because I have some thoughts that I'm going to share in the new business portion of our agenda, but I think that would be a great thing for us to evangelize as a commission,
Yeah.
that residents, neighborhoods, community members, you can go in and see what's going to be a part of your daily existence. So, excellent. All righty, we're moving on to education and economic opportunities. Chair Castro.
I'm going to start my presentation by saying I have the most wonderful members in that committee. We had some excellent discussions. Ours was also a very brief meeting because what we did is review the recommendation that we're bringing forward. The idea was do we all agree, and there was a consensus that basically what we want from our subcommittee to come out is that the city of Lexington is already doing a fantastic job. We have partners such as United Way, Community Action Council, and others that are doing a phenomenal job in education and economic opportunities. What we need is somebody that can actually coordinate, and more than coordinate, the word coordinate, I hate it, but oversee what's going on. We really need data. We need data from the middle schools. We need data from the high schools to really see if what our partners are doing is effective. We think it is, but there's not a single location, institution, person that is looking forward or looking at every component and say, how can we better use the money? Because the city is using money. We got a report this morning of some of the investments that the city is doing in our neighborhoods, and it is interesting to see that unfortunately they still continue to live as silos. We need somebody to really, and this is, by the way, by no stretch of the imagination, our initial recommendation. It was one of the recommendations was brought forward even from the initial commission. So we think it's very important. We discussed it. I think we went through lengths on some of the parts, and it's basically we just looked over, made sure that everything's okay, and then we wrapped it up.
Excellent. So now Chair Fields will talk about the housing and gentrification. Something that, once again, I've already alluded to it, but I'll bring it up in new business, but something that, just to make you all aware of, our last two meetings that we had scheduled for our commission for our committee, based upon the requirement of a minimum of 3, we were not able to have. So the update that I can give you will be based upon previous meetings, and I'll put it in the realm of what our recommendations are. Essentially, the main recommendation is, and much to your point, Mr. Castro, about the fact that there are a lot of implementations, recommendations that have already been put out there, and we just need to reinforce them. It's the same for the Housing and Gentrification Committee. Essentially, our goal or our recommendation is to create some ways for the programs that are currently in effect to be evangelized, to be amplified from the point of marketing, education out to the public, and to create a way for people to maximize the utilization of the funds and the different housing opportunities that have come available. Also, the fact that for years there have been certain programs that have been available. However, understanding how those programs work together and what you can utilize together, such as Section 8 and affordable housing, missing out on that educational piece, that creates a void in the people that are able to take advantage of it. And it's one of those things where those who know, and as a subcommittee for this, we want to do everything that we can to make sure that, that doesn't happen and there's equal access. Also, the previous recommendations, 1 through 9, 6, 7, and 8, which I don't have them in front of me, but essentially, recommendations 6, 7, and 8, they pertain to neighborhoods that are in the process of being gentrified, having some parameters put in so that there can be economic opportunities for minorities that stem from those developing areas, and that prime contracts or monies that are given to companies that bid for that business, overwhelmingly there is a advantage that many small businesses and minority business owners do not have when it comes to competing for contracts. So thinking of a way or creating some mechanisms that will require the involvement of minorities in those neighborhoods. And there was some very telling information in the disparities report, 2022 disparities report regarding the, I'm totally paraphrasing, but regarding the participation of minority contractors in winning contract bids with the city. And so when the report's released, when our report's released, you'll have access to that information. So
Yeah, I'd like to also share something. I've been keeping up with the affordable housing, as you all pretty much know. And I've toured all the facilities except 2. One I wasn't able to get into. But the city is doing an awesome job with the affordable housing process with these apartments that they've built. The recommendations 1 through 4, they are doing, and they're doing a good job with it. But like Mr. Fields said, the other recommendations will be working on recommendations for them. But basically, it's going really smooth. I ran into a couple of complaints that I don't know who would look into it about for as the builders. They're not building enough green space. The kids have a small playground. You build 252 apartments, and they have one little space for a playground.
Yep, I
I've
saw
looked
that.
at the Russell Cave, out on Russell Cave, and they explained to me, they actually took me to this playground, and it's just
Smaller than my
useless. So,
backyard.
when they take into consideration when the city gives them the money to build, maybe we can look into that, because that is an issue. You have that many kids, because we're working on trying to get family housing and, affordable housing for everyone, but then you're forgetting the children. So that's one of the things that we may look into. And then the other thing, which is, I guess you can't really help that, it's 1-bedroom apartments. They have 3, they have 2, and then you have single people that need affordable housing. All the 1-bedrooms pretty much are filled. You have a couple, I think one facility is still being under construction, maybe 2 apartments. But for us, 1-bedroom apartments is just like almost unheard of. Because I think they're concentrating on families too, which is fine, and for the kids and stuff, but you may not have built enough 1-bedroom affordable housing. So I think another organization is working toward veterans, for veterans to have, because most of them are single, 1-bedrooms is unheard of. But overall, I think the city is doing really good with the recommendations 1 through 4, and we'll be making recommendations on the other, I think it's really 5 through 9. So I'll keep you updated on that.
I have a comment on this. So there's Article 20 that kicked in this year. All new developments require multifamily requirements, 25 units or more, require a minimum of 10,000 square feet of open space, with the minimum dimension being 100 feet. So that one kicked in this year. So all new development moving forward will have that space.
Nice. nice.
I know it's not enough for kids to play. And I moved down here from Northern Kentucky. Started here, moved away, came back. Northern Kentucky, there's a developer who every project he does has play areas and all that. I suggested that for Lexington, but I was told the problem is the maintenance. Who maintains it? Is it the parks? Is it the residents? Is it the HOA? So when it comes to maintaining it, that's fees going up. So that was the biggest concern, was the maintenance. But when it comes to open space / green space, usable space, new developments have to have that 10,000 square feet.
That's good. Well, you know, I think the builder, whoever, you know, AU or, I forgot the name of the other builder that's building some of these affordable houses, they should be held liable for their property. They own it. So they should be, to keep the maintenance up or whatever. The city's giving them money, but you need to keep your playground up. It shouldn't be another person's problem or the city's problem. You own that. I think it's AU, I forgot which one they built. They have plenty of money, and you know, they can maintain their property. It's their property, you know, and the city gave you that money, so you shouldn't worry about how am I maintaining a playground for the kids. I think that's
It's
minimal.
easy said.
Do
And
I-
Go ahead.
Do I hear an opportunity that we could recommend that be a requirement?
I would appreciate it because I think.
Well, I think, I understand,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing we can do,
Yeah,
is
because
recommend.
one of the problems existing right now is you will require development to leave out space for specific things like playgrounds.
Mhm.
Playground equipment is not cheap.
Right.
So a developer can say, I will leave that space, and homeowners or residents can purchase that equipment. If they're able to do that, the next problem is who's going to maintain this, because that's also not cheap. You can see the Lexington parks. The city itself is struggling to maintain what they have. Now imagine that being brought into your neighborhood. It's maintenance is not as cheap as we think. It's just walking up. It's a big taking.
Right, well, Kearney Creek, for example, I went out there and toured that apartment complex. They have an in-ground pool. Who's gonna keep up the maintenance on that? Not the city. So I'm sure with this pool, which, some people said that's really a accident getting ready to happen, you know, you have affordable housing and, you know, that's fine to have amenities, but a swimming pool, it's just like almost and so I'm sure they're gonna maintain that pool. So why can't they maintain the playgrounds or find a way to get grants or, I mean, to me, it doesn't have to be the state-of-the-art playground, but just to have, you know, at least save some space, so if we do run into a situation where we may be able to get more playground equipment, they'll have it. But at Russell Cave Road, it's just unreal, the little space they have for a playground. It's just like, we're not leaving any space.
I hear
Couple
an
things.
opportunity.
There is, I was on the Parks and Rec board, and they did a whole presentation. There is an amount of green space that's required per development. And not only that, it's supposed to be within a 7-minute walk. And we're our green space in Lexington. So I think I can reach out to Monica, but there is somebody that can come do a presentation to us.
I'm with Long Range. We are the ones who wrote the Article 20.
But that was in place before this year.
No, Article 20.
Well, not 20, but I'm saying the regulation
Yeah,
as far as having
requirements
green
were there.
space per development. The park you're talking about, you guys, is ridiculous. I don't know how many units it is, but it's, the park is smaller than this room, and the actual apartment complex is huge. It could be 200-300
It's
complexes.
huge. The one at Russell Cave.
Yes, and the park
walk-in
is smaller than
shower.
the space.
I think, when I went in, I was just amazed at the 3 bedrooms.
So I did have a couple
They
questions
have
for you.
walk-in showers, they have a balcony, I mean, they're beautiful, they're just beautiful, but you left out some green space.
That's a problem. And if we want to take the fight, I'm 100% behind it, because I believe people being outdoors is more helpful than being indoors.
Yes, mental health, physical health. So the word affordable housing, I'm getting notes from community people around where I'm at. The word affordable housing, who defines affordable? Affordable for who? So all these one bedrooms. Okay, so HUD's definition of affordable. These one bedrooms are affordable for a college student who already comes from probably maybe middle class, upper class, can afford these one bedrooms that have been taken up like that. That's why there's no one bedrooms, because they're actually they're not affordable housing for families. And even a $900 rent a month is not affordable for families. And so people complain about these so-called affordable. Maybe there needs to be a marketing on who determines what affordable is, because it's not affordable to the people in the community that I'm talking about. The other question was, who regulates code enforcement? And they say, well, who is this code enforcement? Who regulates them? And why do they get to pick and choose who they get to ding and go? Because in the first district, there's more code enforcement violations in first district than there is anywhere else. And first district happens to be where people with less resources that are surrounded, we know first district is a community that has less access and more barriers. But code enforcement tends to do more there. And the code enforcement's appeal process, this all goes to gentrification. The person that I talked to, the people I talked to, said their appeal process looked like this. They walked into the room with 3 or 4 other professionals already having a conversation, and you walk in there not understanding your rights. You're most likely the only person of color sitting at the table around people in suits that are asking or determining your outcome. And you have no say-so, and you're afraid to even speak. So why does the appeal process, why is it so intimidating? And I kind of went back to thinking about the school district and what we call, I don't want to go down that road, but anyway, when you walk into a space where everybody's in there a professional, and you're the only not professional person, you can't really advocate for yourself at that time. And so they feel that they're set up for them for failure. And then they're wondering why Parks and Rec is changing who manages all the shelters. Shelters was a opportunity for low-income families to be able to do their events there free, and now they can't even get into those shelters any longer because there's all these prices, and who's managing them is changing. So these are questions they told me, go back and ask and figure out. Let's get a grip of who this code enforcement people are.
Can I answer one of your statements?
Yes.
I wish I had the paperwork, but code enforcement actually is doing a wonderful job. They implemented a program where instead of, I think I brought this up back a long time ago with Mr. Lannard, when we met at the council office, that so many minorities and other properties are getting, boom, automatically condemned. So the realtor or buyer, whoever gets it, flips it and sells it and, makes money. Well, they implemented, I can't remember the money, how much code enforcement has allotted. If your house is in violation, they have funds now to fix your house up so they won't have to condemn it or give you fines and force you to move out. So they're doing a wonderful job with this program. The gentleman that's, which in their recommendations, they were gonna hire a code enforcement person, that position, to oversee that. So, I think in their defense, they're addressing some of what you're talking about, because
What
they.
was the timeline?
It's been implemented, so
It's been implemented.
grant program has been implemented for almost 2 years now.
These questions came about East End Day about a month ago from families that was in East End Day. So this is brand new questions. So there's an education piece that code enforcement should have been at this East End event maybe, and say, hey, this is a resource that this community can use.
Right, because
but maybe these families just don't know this exists. I didn't know it exists, and I didn't know code enforcement is such a sticking point in the East End community in particular. I'm new to that, so I'm just relaying these questions. I've never had to deal with them.
Commissioner Lancer, Charlie Lancer, who's over housing and community Public Housing and Community, he's the one, code enforcement is under his umbrella.
Okay.
They would need to contact him. I will say also in Commissioner Lancher's defense is that they've been looking for an African American or person of color attorney to serve on the code enforcement for that process. But I've sent out emails trying to find someone, and that is a hard ask because it does require a lot of time. So there is some intentional efforts around, making that a more diverse process and a process where people will feel comfortable by feeling like they belong and that they identify with some other faces in the room. It may be an educational opportunity. They have also sent out postcards letting folks know what their rights are, especially if you have code violations, so that potential real estate developers can't come and buy your property out from under you, so that you know which steps to take. It is also incumbent upon those of us in the community when we receive that we are proactive as well. So there's a balance. I believe that there needs to be to it, is that yes, there's this process and it can feel like an adversarial process, but we also have to be involved in that process and take initiative and also seek information, because it's not just gonna show up at our door.
Right. The program is called the Housing Repair Assistance Program, and they acquired $200,000 from the federal Arbor grant to
And it's been
this program.
it's continued to be funded.
And the last I heard, they had 48 applications approved. 26 of the projects has already been completed. It's probably more now. And then they did hire that one person to go out and assess the properties. I actually had called him, and he went out and is working on the
Was it
person.
Rick McWady?
No, it's Jerry Lucas.
Dr. Rick McWady.
Yeah, he's the actual one that goes out and looks at your house and sees what repairs you need, and then this person is waiting to get her house repaired because they have this, and the grant may have been more, so there. But I think the big thing is people are not educated. Like, I got that postcard saying, if you have any problems with your home or in jeopardy of getting a violation, I got that postcard in the mail, and I think they sent it citywide. But still, it's an education process that people want to say, well, they're coming to condemn my house or whatever, not knowing that they have this program and money to do that. So I think it's just the education part that needs to be done.
So there's not a gap in what city is doing as far as efforts to support versus what landlords are able to do?
Landlords, property owners?
Property owners, sorry.
Is there a gap? Is there a gap?
Is there something missing between the two? Because depending on the timeliness of like application process and different things like that, it doesn't protect people from being removed from their housing. So I'm curious, like, is there a gap here that we're missing?
So there's also intentional efforts to contact the folks who do have current code violations, to let them know about this program. They still have to apply to the program.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, if somebody receives something stating that they're in violation, to me, it's coming from the city, so why wouldn't we also deliver, and this is how you can get that fixed as well at the same time, right? Here's the problem, here's a possible solution for you, and it's at the same time, and then maybe that could be a possible gap closer, so close that communication piece more timely. If that's not happening, that's an easy fix to me. But,
And I feel like this is a theme that we run into over and over in all of these different committees, is that the gap might be in trust about what you're reading, who it's coming from, how long it's gonna take, is it gonna be worth the effort while you're underneath that mountain of stress with something like this going on in your life. And so again, whether we're talking about education or we're talking about housing, whether we're talking about law enforcement, that there's a theme in what we're all saying is where can we make sure that there's a trusted person that says, hey, this is out here, here's how to do it. And yeah, you've got a postcard, but imagine what else is in your mail when you've got this going on. So there's something that has to happen where the trusted resource is there, that people really, they know it's there and that they feel connected to that person or department.
Well, and a person to help fill out the application.
Right.
You know, because
They,
let's face it,
they do.
so that we just need to make sure people know that.
They have the housing
So-
advocate, they have.
And I think that's
It's all right.
really, that's the biggest disconnect, is we're saying that there needs to be a dedicated person. There is a dedicated person
Right.
that is doing this intentional outreach. You can't make somebody pick up the phone.
That's right.
You can't make somebody answer their mail. So there has to, with all of this communication, there has to be, both parties have to be engaged.
Fair.
And it can't wait until we're at the end stage.
Yeah.
Both parties have to be engaged. So that's all I'm saying. But we can bring in Commissioner Lanter, have him, and we'll have that information coming up soon, to give you all reports from how many people they've contacted about this program, how many people are participating.
I believe
and
you
how
did.
many people they've helped fill out the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So-
because they gave me
You
these
came.
numbers, and
Yeah.
this has been probably maybe 6 months ago. 48 were approved, 26 were completed.
If they need a contact
completed.
number, feel free to email, connect them with me. There was a person who, I don't know how I got the phone call last week that said, it's getting cold, I don't have heat, and I don't have the money to get a new unit. I got them in contact with Commissioner Lanter and Tiffany Maston, and this week they got her a new unit. So I know that
That's
this program
excellent.
works, but it's getting folks in contact with the right people. So if you don't mind, you can feel free to connect me with them, and we can get a resolution.
And communicating that good news, that like, this is a great
Yeah.
thing and you can
Yes.
trust it and it's worth the effort, the likelihood of being approved is such and such percent.
And I think these
Building that
community-
trust.
These community meetings that we were talking about
Those are
earlier,
great
some of them being specifically for law enforcement and the others not. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to try to build a lot of trust with the community and bringing in people like Commissioner Lanter to talk about it, people that have benefited from it, saying that this is a trusted program, and maybe having people there to help, not only will we tell you about the program that's here, bring your issues, and we'll have people on site that will help fill out the application, get everything started, so you can, learn about the project, hear from testimonials of people doing it, and we're actually helping to try to get, the application started, the communication started. So I think it is just communication and
They
education
gave me
for
a
us.
phone number, because I had said this once before to you all. Sometimes I feel like a realtor. Because people call me and they know I'm on this with them. And I help them. I filled out applications. I took a girl out to Kearney Creek, got the application filled out, got her money order, took her to get a money order, got everything done. There's about 3 or 4 people I've helped get in some of these affordable housing. And I don't mind. But like you said, they need to know. They have, Mr. Lanter gave us a phone number. All they have to do, they have an advocate. They have a housing advocate. They can call, they can get information, help. We'll fill your application out. We'll do everything. Because I tell you what, sometimes I feel like an unpaid realtor, but I don't mind helping these people because they don't know. And then the word of mouth, right? People tell me, well, Charlotte can help you do this. I had somebody call me a couple of weeks ago. Well, I heard that there's some kind of program I can buy a house. I called a realtor. I said, I don't know about this program, about buying a house through the affordable, whatever it is. But anyway, people just don't know. And they have a number that they can call the city, and they can put them in place with everybody, with the home assistance program, with the affordable housing. It's just people don't know.
And
Can
I
I-
think, sorry, I'm just gonna say, for the sake of time, we've got about 30 minutes left, and there's still some things that we need to cover. But I think at the end of the day, we could sum it up is in awareness, education, and, communication. So, yes, please.
In trust. I think
Yeah,
we
that's
go
a big
back
thing.
to, we're talking about things very segmented. around this here, that here, that here. And if I'm drowning and life is happening, to throw at me 5 different postcards with communication that can help, I mean, that we have to wonder why it's not received or followed through, because there are other things that I can't get above. And so it seems like a lot of things are segmented. And so if I think it goes back to the alignment piece. I think Tiffany, I don't know if I'm supposed to call you Tiffany. When you guys do the expungement clinic, it's wraparound. So you're not just saying come here for one thing, but you're doing wraparound United Way. Like, you have things that are wraparound. So the alignment of these resources and services that we have, but not it being so segmented around why don't people know. And by approaching it, like, I think trust is still a piece of it too. So
Yeah, I agree. And that trust that's been damaged, it is not rebuilt overnight. It takes time, and it takes consistent communication, and it definitely takes more than one postcard. So, yeah. All right. So we will move on to health disparities.
So I have one comment on our last thing, and then I'll move forward. So I just wanted to let you guys know that there is going to be a public hearing on source of income discrimination. It's related to the affordable housing units. It's November 14th. Might be worthwhile to attend if anybody's available for that. So I'll just send this out to you, and then you can share it with the rest of the group if you want.
I have it.
Okay,
I
so if you want to just forward it. I think it's here in council chambers. I think it's probably worthwhile to hear what our communities are concerned about and what action they would like done. So just wanted to say that. As far as health disparities, it fell during fall break. There were a number of us out. We did not meet. I don't have an update. So that's it. And I think most of you have seen my report and recommendations. So.
Thank you much. All right. So now a committee reports in progress from Ms. Brown.
I believe I've received all of the reports except for the Law Enforcement Justice and Accountability Subcommittee. And then we'll kind of be able to start putting everything together for the January 12th. As soon as I get it, I will send it to you all for review, and then we can make approved recommendations for the full report in January.
All right, well, excellent. So now opening up to new business, there is amendment to, I believe this is to rename the committee, and everyone should have paperwork in front of them. Mr. Johnson, would you like to cover that?
Sure. Again, this is something that we've discussed, we've all agreed on, and sort of the first preliminary vote in furtherance of this, and this is to make the public change and recognition that this commission is probably better served by renaming itself to the Racial Justice and Equity Commission, realizing that equity takes into consideration everyone's sort of starting point. So it's not just about everyone having the same, it's not sameness. It's about providing all community members, all Lexingtonians with whatever they need in order to reach that end result, which is equality. So I won't read through all the legalese, but it basically lays out sort of the rationale for this. It describes both terms and moves that the commission will be changed once the county council votes on this. I think it requires 2 readings. And then they will vote to hopefully approve this, and then that would go into effect pretty much immediately afterward. Is that correct?
That is correct. I met with one of our council members today to discuss, so there's a couple of other pieces that need to occur prior to getting this on the council docket. And so I will be reaching out to you, Mr. Johnson, to help kind of move this forward.
Is our vote on it today part of that process? Like, do we still need to vote?
Yes, I think we should do that, just so that there's something on record,
right,
and we can just kind of move forward with this draft.
So, with that said, unless there's a discussion, and please, by all means, it's open for discussion. If there's not, I'd move to accept this language, adoption of changing our name from the Racial Justice and Equality Commission to the Racial Justice and Equity Commission, and have that forwarded to the next step of the process, ultimately leading to the council to vote and approve.
Second.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Forward by hearing next steps. Thank you.
But just technical, you really, even though he accepted it, he seconded it, we gotta still vote yes.
Oh,
We didn't vote
Thank you.
yes.
so moves minutes.
Thank you.
It was moved and properly second, so we just gotta vote. You just gotta call for the vote.
Thank you for the
Yes.
volunteering.
Okay, good deal. All right, so everyone who votes yay for the renaming,
Yes.
Yes.
any nays? It carries. Good deal. All right. So now we have other items. There was something that I wanted to just share with you all. And it is basically just something to think about. I've got a printed out copy that I will share. But, you know, it pertains to goals and subcommittee structure. And so I'm just putting this on the floor. It can be something that we decide to talk about and move forward with. You don't have it. So in our, where it outlines the powers and duties within our bylaws, one bullet says, setting goals, developing strategies to, for reaching those goals, and creating methods to measure progress towards those goals, and all in service of developing recommendations. And so a thought that I had, and I've heard some things that seem to be leaning that way, is we could, as subcommittees, have a goal that will have one community engagement event, either monthly or quarterly. And prior to the engagement, the subcommittee members will create a list of prompting questions to solicit thoughts from the community. And during the engagement, they'll share implementations based upon recommendations that have been acted on and solicit public feedback. As it relates to the subject area or the focus area of that subcommittee, and then also solicit open public feedback relating to your focus area. The goal being to share, ask, and listen. So that's just a thought that I wanted to submit as a possible goal that the subcommittees could take on and run with it. The next is a consideration. You know, as I reflect on the duties of our commission and reviewing, you know, my efforts and success, which is, you know, part of the reporting process, you report on your efforts and success. You know, I believe that, you know, our subcommittee is capable of more. And I feel like the city deserves more. Notably, we have had some attendance issues, you know, where folks haven't been able to come to meetings. And that got me, whenever I encounter something like that, I always look back to see what has been done. And in doing so, I looked at the subcommittees that were before us, and they have between 10 to 17 members on each subcommittee. And whereas it stands now, we have between 3 and 5. And since we have a requirement of at least 3, it is very easy for someone to not be able to make it because life happens. People get sick, you know, someone has an appointment. And so a thought that I had, and this is just something that I'm throwing out into the ether, is perhaps we need to, you know, consider consolidating some of the subcommittees into a larger group to provide some member redundancy, or consider reconvening our normal monthly meetings as a full commission and call special meetings as needed to drill down, discuss, plan, and review for specific focus areas. So,
I'll make a comment at the table.
Please.
So one of the things that I had mentioned before to Commissioner Sam was that health disparities falls into every one of our
Yes.
other subcommittees. And so I think that makes sense that we roll that into a portion of every other subcommittee. So that would at least be one that we would, one way we could consolidate. So just a thought, because I think as we think about housing and gentrification and education, we have to think about how health disparities really plays into those things. The education leads to the health disparities. So no housing leads to, like, it is just all so intertwined. So I think that would be, now I have not spoke to my committee members about that. I just potentially disbanded us without having conversations, so I apologize. But I think that is very reasonable, because I also agree with you, it's hard when you have 3 or 4 people on your subcommittee to always have a quorum. So.
This would also require an amendment.
I was just thinking about that. Right.
yeah. That's why I'm just throwing it out.
It took like 8 months for the last one.
Your turn to deal.
I do like the idea of the community events, more so like on a quarterly basis. I like how Christian was able to say what I've heard from community, because I think perception is
Very
very
much so.
important. And maybe that is something that could help in subcommittees, or without having to change the bylaws, is using some of that time, because we haven't been operating our subcommittees based off of community input and feedback. So that may make a difference.
Yeah, we don't have any, we have leeway on where we're gonna hold our subcommittee meetings or how, don't we?
It has to be able to be advertised in a length of time, and it has to be accessible in case people want to visit and participate, so with those caveats.
It seems that we could still keep the subcommittees, and I like the idea of meeting more as a full group more often. That wouldn't take a change to the ordinance. And then also, I do like the idea of more public outreach and that kind of thing. I think that's one of the most important tools that we have. But I am with you also that monthly, not only might that be difficult to put together, but I imagine that we'll see a lot of the same faces over and over again. And so I don't know that people would come that often. So we wouldn't want to over ask of attendance.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, that makes sense, and I think that was one of the reasons why we initially split, so that we could have focus in smaller groups. I just know when we are here together, you know, there's a lot of thoughts that hit the table that otherwise wouldn't if we weren't together. And this is more of a reminder, something that occurred to me, and it really occurred to me when I was going through and completing the report for our group. Just some housekeeping, and I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to everyone here. When we talk about things and we express how we feel about certain situations, or we label things, I just think it's incumbent upon us to be very careful that the labels or the thoughts or the comments, that they are not just based on what we've observed ourselves, but it's a culmination of both, you know, our lived experience, but primarily what we've, information that we've acquired from the public or from data sets, reputable data sets. Because I will tell you, Mr. Adair, when you were sharing that information that you received from the community, I mean, that's who we're here to serve. That's what it's about. And I have some very strong opinions about how I feel about some specific things. And, you know, I won't share them here unless it is in support of or lifting up something that is, you know, qualitatively or quantitatively able to be conveyed, and also, you know, directly benefits the public and the people that we serve. So I'm just throwing that out into the ether.
Well, I want to support, if we need to do a bylaws change, I think we should also be thinking about 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the line. So if we have to go through an 8-month process of doing a bylaws change that's gonna make this committee work better, I think that's something that we do, not just wait, like, don't do it because it's gonna take us a long time. But let's think about the next commission, or 5 years from now, we're putting something in place. I think we're still building this commission, really. I think we're still trying to figure it out, to be honest, on how we contribute, how we represent the community. So I don't think that's a charge that we back away from just because it may take a little work. But these little changes, you know, are gonna be the basis for what happens in 5 years, you know? So.
Great.
Just like the name change. People may not think, people think, oh, they're in the weeds about a name change. No, that's a weed that we should have been cutting down and figured out, because in the future, having equity instead of equality is going to be much more impactful and understanding. So I don't think we're in the weeds at all, making these small nuances.
And I appreciate the way you broke down the definition, because that's something that I've had to do several times. They're not the same, and one leads to the other every time. Because if you have equity, that leads to equality, period. So, you know, good point.
If I could add one more thing, when we're talking about going or inviting the community in, maybe it's also a model to consider that we're going out more. And so we could also work together to generate a list of who's already meeting that we should have attendance in, and, you know, show our interest in where we might go and consistently be a face in that crowd. So that would also, I think, if I were a community member, to see somebody come to me and not just invite me to their place, I think that would be a really inclusive way for us to see a lot more folks where they already feel comfortable.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that's what I was thinking the same thing, is that I would much rather go to them. I agree, the quarterly piece would be great, but going to, and
Both,
so much,
yeah.
are there council people that have these meetings in place that we could partner with and go to their meetings, but not make it an additional gathering, but if there are some that we could plug into, you know, maybe we could ask to carve out some time, but to go to the community would definitely be a lot more impactful. And it would cut down on hurdles. Can't get downtown, and babysitter, parking, and everything else that comes with trying to come to a location like this.
That makes sense. We should always make it easy for involvement. Please go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I wonder if, so I liked your comment about us being together, like, that's where we have good discussion and things, and I think we have good discussion in the small groups too, so I don't wanna lose that in the subcommittees, but I'm wondering if we go back to maybe our original, schedule where we do meet monthly, but every other month we do like 45 minutes and 45 minutes, so we have our group discussion for 45 minutes, and then we break into the smaller groups for 45 minutes, and then we can make plans for, okay, in the next 3 months, for the next quarter, I'm going to this community event, you're going to go to that one, and you're going to go to that one, and then we can talk about those when we come back, and we can even structure what we want to hear from them, not necessarily hear, but what do we want to find out? Like, what is our open-ended questions that we want to hear? Like, certainly hear what they have to say, but then are there certain things we want to know based on our subcommittee? And then that gives us a form to come back and sort of start to work toward what our community wants us to do. So
We could bring materials with us when we go, if we have materials to share.
Yeah, I mean, for the housing and gentrification alone, I think having that type of engagement, whether we created the event or it was something that was existing, which makes a lot of sense. I think that would be an incredible idea. But just back to what you said about creating a list of, I'm paraphrasing, but creating a list of community engagement opportunities. Yes. Yeah, I have a lazy eye.
Well, there's a lot of good
So,
ideas going on.
I didn't want
I
to
think-
credit for her
Thank you.
comment.
No, that's fine. I think that's a great idea. And I think between the people that are sitting at this table and sitting over there, I think we could come up with a very, a decent list that we could all utilize and pick and choose. You know, if we do have those types of engagements, the main thing is that we go in with an agenda and we come out with information to report back. That's what's crucial, but the opportunities are there. But having a list that we kind of formally communicated, I think would create more opportunity for us to take advantage of that.
We, when we purchased our building in Over Sales Road, we joined the Greater Garden Site Association. We thought it would be nice. We have come to find out that in that community alone, we were not reaching out to all of our members. So in February, for example, it's just an example. In February, we're going to have a meeting where we invite the different communities that we have not. We have a strong Asian and a strong Swahili community. They have never been invited. So just having things like that, and if we could identify other homeowners or what's that long street off of Nicholasville? Big on services, big on a lot of great.
Southland.
I'm sorry?
Southland.
Thank you. That's another great organization. They even have they started the farmers market, which Garden Site just picked it up because there is a Garden Site association. I mean a farmers market association, and they go to where they're invited. So I think you guys just hit it right on the nail. We need to go to them. They are not going to come to us, and that's when we decided with the opening of the brand new library on Versailles Road. That's a great opportunity to bring in. I told the chief, and he said he would love to come, and I never thought of us. Truly, never thought of us until now. We need to be there. We need to be to places because they may have situations that we don't hear. I mean, I'm sorry. I owned my house for 27 years. I know every neighbor in that neighborhood. But that's not true with everybody. When they move in and out of those apartment complexes, they may be lost. They truly may be lost. And I know we had a meeting this morning with Downtown Lexington Management District. The housing, the gentleman that deals with homeless came and gave us some phenomenal resources. I didn't know that existed. And I had to fight it all by myself because my building was abandoned for 5 years, and I used law enforcement and people like Charlie Lanton that were phenomenal in helping me curb that homelessness. Nobody has come to in the back, and the whole central bank, the whole area is super happy, but it took consistency. Had I known that we existed, I could have come and said, what are the resources? Where do I go? Remember when we were talking about Help Desperate, those companies that help you buy tickets are phenomenal because they have access to every single hotel and airline secret deals, and everyone has them. We call it yield management in the industry. We're going to lower our prices to maximize we need to have those planes full. We, as an organization, need to be that clearinghouse. We have knowledge that others don't, but yet we're forgetting to bring in the community that most needed, and basically not bring them. We forget to go to the communities that most needed and do our job, because look at the discussions we had today. Fantastic resources are just awesome. That just knowing about the police, and by the way, we heard about that with the downtown, because the downtown is going to try to give grants to businesses to allow them to do that. Those are news that we may need to bring to the community and say, this is available. But until this discussion, it didn't even dawn on me that that's what we should be doing. So thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
But just something to be aware of. when we do have our list, and if we can all work towards that goal, I think what will be really important is that we communicate with the people that are leading these events so that they can consider us in any agenda that they have.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Thereby, we will have time to share information. Otherwise, we would just talk to individuals who we can talk to versus being built into the agenda. Hey, we have a representative who's going to be sharing some information and they would love to hear from you. That will set us up for success when we're going to where they are, because that's important.
I also want to amplify something around the coming together more often, which you said as well. Maybe we could look at more of a 3 to 1, you know, that we could meet together 3 times and then the subcommittee once. Or I do really like your idea of meeting all together every time, and one of them half of the time is given to the subcommittee. I don't know what you all think, but it might be something worth voting on.
It's interesting, we just have to figure out the logistics around making sure each subcommittee is still captured and people can attend, because I think that's the balancing.
Oh, that's right, because we
But-
have 2
but-
people, yeah.
But we might,
Two
we might be able
groups.
to figure something out.
Yeah.
It's a great, I like the idea to put the breakouts too, like where would we break out to? We'd have to find out if they have some extra space.
I don't think it would work logistically to have a breakout in each subcommittee because they have to be public meetings.
Oh, that's
yeah.
true.
The public has to be able to attend.
But if we did it here, like a breakout, here, even if,
There's
How
separate
many?
spaces.
You have
Yeah,
to
we
be
would
able
need
to record it virtually.
Could you alternate
Um,
between in-person and virtual and use Zoom? People can join breakouts, and you can also record, I think, in separate breakout rooms.
So, yes and no.
Okay.
This is probably one of the most difficult meetings to schedule, because it's so different, and it's not like one standard. So I think maybe if you all, whoever has a proposed schedule of meetings, let's bring that to the next meeting
Yeah.
to vote on. That makes it easier, and then also, they've made some changes within the building on who can access what spaces when,
Gotcha.
and reserving those spaces. So that also can present another challenge. So just however you all would like to meet, that is up to the commission. I am totally fine with scheduling it, however, but we do have some logistical things to consider
Yeah.
as far as Lex TV, and our public meeting spaces.
So on our next agenda, we will have that listed, and potential schedules. We can take some time, work on that, and then bring that to the commission.
So that would be December?
That would be
That'd be
January.
January.
Unless we need to call a special meeting.
I'd be open to that.
unless, yeah, we could just forego the December subcommittee meeting and make it a full commission meeting. Do we have, and then that way we can bring ideas for meeting schedule and also ideas for, public meetings that we would want to attend.
I like that.
Well, I don't know if you necessarily, the public meetings that you all would need to attend, does that need to be an agenda item? Like, all of our public meetings they're published.
I was just
So-
thinking
Well, we
like
mean like
community.
community organizations that
Community.
individuals
Oh,
will
okay.
sign up to go see a different.
And I was just thinking everybody could bring their ideas and we could just compile a list. And, cause I may know of something that
Yeah.
you don't know or they don't know.
And we could do
vice
that by
versa, and
email.
then- We could do that by email, and then
That's
just
exactly what I was
have the
gonna say.
list at the next meeting. So
That'd
we
be
could throw
great.
it out there and just say, hey, this is when they meet, this is, I don't.
There's already a share folder, which I'm gonna have to move it because I'm out of space and I'm not buying anymore for that Google account. But
Actually, we will need to move it. Legally, we have to move that folder
Okay.
from your personal account.
Perfect, okay. Well then, I've already
Sorry.
downloaded it, and I will get that sent over.
Yeah.
And we will put in there a list. Can I get access to, we'll share access to the new folder.
Yeah.
And we can create a sign-up sheet or just a ledger. And everyone just put their resources in there, you know?
But if we're gonna do your idea about meeting in December, I think someone should just make a motion so we can vote on it, because we're changing our meeting frequency, so
Yep.
let's make that happen in the minute we have left.
So I motion that we meet all together in December instead of subcommittees.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, whoa!
Jump with
Get out of
Easy.
here.
I'm your advocate, but I have a few things that I must. Yays.
Yay.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great.
Wait, did your motion adjourn?
We're not
I did.
adjourning.
Do I have a
Move to
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right.
It is so
Any opposed?